Well, here's my weekly update of what's been happening in the constituency and here at Westminster. Last week, at the tail end of last week, I went to speak to third and fourth year pupils at Edinburgh University who are doing a politics and political studies course. It's great to see young people invested and interested in politics, and I was delighted to answer all of their simple and complicated questions when I went to see them last Friday. And then I went to see Liberton Kirk. They're running a heat bank, and also IT skills up at Liberton Kirk Halls. Thanks to Fiona, who showed me around and who made me a nice cup of tea for all they're doing for the local people up there in this challenging time. I'm going to go away from Westminster and talk a little bit about the Scottish Parliament. And congratulations to Humza, Yousaf, on becoming the First Minister in Scotland, but he doesn't have a particularly good track record, particularly for constituents here in South Edinburgh. We have a GP crisis, the worst GP crisis the constituency's ever seen. The NHS Lothian says will mean that GP services are failing. And Humza Yousaf, when he was Health Secretary, the worst Health Secretary in the devolution era, will not provide the money to build the much needed infrastructure required for all the new and existing residents that are in the Liberton-Gilmerton ward in particular. Back here to Westminster today with Scottish Questions. I get 2 questions every session to ask the Secretary of State, Alistair Jack. I used my first question to congratulate Humza Yousaf on becoming First Minister, but throwing Humza's own words back to him, he rightly suggested when the Conservatives changed their leader here at Westminster twice last year that there should be a general election, and I asked the Secretary of State if he thought there should not only be a general election because of that, but a Scottish election too, now that the First Minister has changed without an election. Humza Yousaf certainly inherits Nicola Sturgeon's legacy, but certainly doesn't inherit her mandate, so we're pushing very hard to have a Scottish election. In my second question, I raised the issue of David Williamson, who has terminal cancer. There are a deal just been done at UK government level between biotech and Moderna to put a new drugs trial in place for people who are in late stage cancers, and David, because he lives in Scotland, can't get onto the trial, so I asked the Secretary of State if he would look into that, and hopefully I'll get a meeting with the Health Secretary here at Westminster very soon to push David's case. That's what's been happening locally, that's what's been happening in Westminster, and this is just my weekly update.